Hello there, welcome to the Football Bloc. My name is Brandon, and today we have another episode of World Cup in Focus, and we are going to look ahead to the 2022 World Cup group stage, knockout stage. I'm going to do a bracket simulator, and I thought it'd be fun to do kind of like an early prediction. We're still, about 4 or 5 months away from the World Cup. A lot can change in between now and November. So I thought it'd be fun to just run through, give kind of a brief prediction for the entire tournament, see who I think is going to be champions, who's going to go far, who's going to get eliminated, who's going to flop, things like that. So if that sounds interesting, let's hop right into it. So as you can see here on my screen, we have a World Cup simulator by the British newspaper, The Telegraph. As you can tell, this is made by an Englishman, as you can tell by right here. I don't think England will win, just to answer this question off right here. I think it is possible. In fact, they were my top favorites, my early top favorites, until the Nations League came around, and also the Finalissima. I think Argentina kind of proved that they are the best team in the world at the moment. But like I said, a lot can change in between now and November. Obviously, injuries, things like that. Also, there will be more international games, and we'll get a closer look at each team as the tournament gets closer. But without further ado, let's go right into it. And as you can see, we have the group stage right here. So I'm basically going to choose who's going to go through in each group, and then it'll already put the teams in for the round of 16, and then so on and so forth. We'll look at the quarterfinals, semifinals, and then the final, and then the winner. So let's start off with Group A. And we have Qatar, Ecuador, Senegal, and Netherlands. And I'm going to be watching this group very intently because it is a very, very interesting group. It's, for the most part, kind of equal. There really is no standout team. A lot of these groups, there is one team that is just very obviously the best. I mean, you look here, Argentina and Brazil, or England in these groups, like they're very obviously the biggest team. In this one though, it's pretty balanced. You have Qatar, the host nations. A lot of people sleep on Qatar. They are, in my opinion, the best team in Asia. They won the Asian Cup. They're obviously also the host nation, always historically overperforms, and even if they don't overperform, there's referees being bribed, maybe, there's always a possibility. You can't rule that out. Ecuador, they play some beautiful football. They played some really, really fun and attractive attacking football in the group stage, or in the World Cup qualifiers in South America. Of course, experience-wise, this team's very young. They don't have a lot of international experience, so yeah, not expecting much of them, but still, they're kind of a wild card. Senegal are by far the best team in Africa. They have a very, very solid defense. They're just an overall well-rounded team. They don't score enough goals, in my opinion, and sometimes they don't dominate the match, but still, very, very strong team. And the Netherlands, of course, it's they're one of the historically the biggest teams of all time. And while their team might not be as world-class as it has in the past, they do have a lot of very talented players. Louis van Gaal is back. So this one is very tough to call. I am going to actually, I'm going to put, I'm going to make a very bold prediction here. I'm going to say Senegal tops the group. I'm going to say Qatar finished second, Netherlands third, and Ecuador fourth. Now, this is a very bold take, like I said, but I think this is going to be an absolute dogfight. Like, I think it's going to be super close, lots of draws here and there. This is going to be decided by the margins, and I think that Senegal, out of these teams, probably have the best defense. Maybe not in terms of player quality, but just in terms of team collective. Senegal has the best defense, and I think that's going to push them into top spot, but only just. And then the same thing with Qatar. I think that they'll qualify, but only just, and I think the home advantage is really going to push them, the familiarity of being in the area. And then, like I said, I think Ecuador probably has the weakest defense out of all these teams and the least amount of experience, so they're going to finish fourth. Netherlands is just going to miss out. It's going to be super close. Anyway, we have Group B with none other than USA in it, and I'm gonna try and be as unbiased as possible when looking at these teams. I mean, obviously, England is the strongest team in the group, but sometimes throughout tournaments they don't necessarily play the best football. They kind of, just stumble their way through games. We saw that at the Euros. Overall, they're a very solid team. They were hard to break down, but they didn't always, play the most attractive football, for example. Iran is also a very strong team in Asia. They have a very, very solid defense. You can make an argument they are the best team in Asia. I would say Qatar, but some people would say Iran. Wales, they're a fun team to watch. They have, some very talented players and Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey, but beyond that, it's not a very deep squad. But, a lot of people have slept on them in the past, and, they got here to the World Cup. They eliminated Ukraine. They eliminated Austria, and they also did okay at the Euros. And then we have the USA, of course, and I think this team is held back by our manager to a certain extent, but still we have a plethora of young talent, and I think in the right system, this team could be a very, very dangerous team. I'm going to say England topped the group. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And then from everything else from there is kind of a toss-up. I'm going to say USA qualify, and then Iran third and Wales second. I just think that England, obviously everyone knows that they should top this group, but I think the US just have slightly more player quality. Even if we aren't the most consistent team, I think that just in terms of player quality, that'll be enough to push us over the edge, but it'll be very, very close. Then we have Group C, and this one, I think Argentina by far the best team in this group. I'm just going to go ahead and put them at the top. I think they're a very, very well-rounded team. In fact, I would say that they're the most well-rounded, most just complete team and the strongest team collective in the entire world right now. I mean, and even beyond that, you just look at the talented players they have: Messi, Di Maria, Lautaro Martinez, youth players like Julian Alvarez. This team is just brimming with talent, along with having that strong collective. They are a very, very dangerous team. Now, it is a bit of a toss-up for second and third. I think Saudi Arabia is easily the worst team in this group. That's not to say they're a bad team. They do play some very attractive football, but just talent gap and also experience, I don't think that they have a shot. It's between Mexico and Poland. Poland, a little inconsistent. Like we saw in the qualifiers, specifically in the playoffs, they were very good. But of course, Mexico is a very, very consistent team at the World Cup. They almost always make it out of their group. And because of that, I'm going to lean towards Mexico as a second place, Poland third, and Saudi Arabia fourth, But I would not be surprised to see this flip-flopped right here and see Poland go through over Mexico. This Mexico team is, like I said, very consistent historically, but at the moment, this is probably the worst Mexican team that I've seen in my whole life as a football fan. So there is that to say, but, saying that, it's not a bad team. They do have some talented players. Tata Martino is a good coach, in my opinion. Then we have Group D. And this one is interesting because, it's for the most part the same exact group that France had in 2018 World Cup. Just instead of Tunisia, it was Peru. And Peru, funnily enough, lost to Australia to make it here to the World Cup and the playoffs. And France is, in terms of talent, the best team in this group and the best team in the entire world. But we have to address the elephant in the room, and that is the champion's curse. For the past 3 World Cups, the reigning champion got completely blown out in the group stage. And I think there's a lot of ways you can explain that, whether it be their style just being found out, the players lacking motivation because, the World Cup is such a momentous achievement. Trying to back that up with a second World Cup is very hard. And even the times when the world champion hasn't got eliminated in the group stage, they've been slightly disappointing as well. Like look at Brazil in 2006. Now, I don't think that France is going to get eliminated in the group stage because that would just be way too uncanny, right? Like, we had Italy, Spain, and Germany. I don't think France will get eliminated in the group stage. That being said, I don't think that they will win the World Cup. I don't think they're going to have a very good World Cup overall. And there's another reason for that as well, because I just think this team it's overrated. I think that even when they won the World Cup in 2018, they're probably the worst world champions overall. I think they only won the World Cup because all the other big teams were disappointing. But that being said, that team, like, if they click, they could be a seriously good team. They're just littered with a world-class player in every single position. In terms of player quality, they are by far the best team in the world. Denmark, though, I think Denmark are a serious team to watch out for this World Cup. The way they played at the Euros, they were amazing at the Euros. They were one of the most fun teams to watch. They're just so aggressive, so free-flowing, so dynamic. And I think that they're going to carry that on into the World Cup. In their past few games, they continued that style. And now that Eriksen is back, there's no reason why they can't keep up that momentum. So I'm going to go ahead and say Denmark first and then France second. Australia and Tunisia, I think, are two of the weakest teams at the World Cup. Australia, they played great to get here in the sense that they just showed pure determination and grit. But their squad is very, very lacking in comparison to these others here. And then Tunisia, also in terms of squad, is a very, very weak squad. Tunisia might edge it over Australia because they were I feel like they have more tournament experience. In terms of defense, sometimes their organization, the way that they organize their defense can just, push them over the line. We saw at the AFCON, for example, they eliminated Nigeria, who was playing wonderful. But then, of course, Tunisia then lost to, I think it was Burkina Faso in the next round. They play terrible in the round right after. So because of that, it's kind of a toss-up. I'm just going to say Australia and Tunisia, but I think there's going to be a huge gap in between the second and third place team. And ultimately, there's not really going to be a chance for Australia and Tunisia to go through. Next, we have this group with Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, and Japan. And this group is going to be very interesting because of the Spain versus Germany matchup. They are two of the best teams in Europe, two of the best teams historically. They've had some famous games recently at the World Cup, of course, the 2010 semifinal. And in that semifinal, Spain came out on top. It was very close, but Spain came out on top. And I think that this is going to happen. The same result is going to happen here because you look at these two teams. Spain has some very, very visible flaws. Obviously, striker, goalkeeper, center back pairing as well. But when it clicks, when everything is perfect, this Spanish team can play the best. They can look like the best team in the world. When they're just pinging the ball back around, when their midfield has total control. Luis Enrique is a wonderful manager. It's just a shame that they don't have, a striker to finish a lot of their chances. Germany, on the other hand, they have Hansi Flick, and I think that Germany is setting up a team for the future. Obviously, 2026 World Cup coming around, I think they could be, tournament favorites. Not to say that they aren't favorites now. I think that they are a serious team. I just don't think Hansi Flick has been able to fully solidify his style yet. Because of that, I'm going to say Spain tops the group, Germany goes in second, but it's going to be close. I think that Germany obviously is a very strong team. And then for third and fourth spot, it's a toss-up between Costa Rica and Japan. Japan is historically the best team in Asia, but their squad this time around isn't the best compared to years past. Costa Rica is kind of in a weird transition period where they have some of the veterans that made it all the way to the 2014 World Cup quarterfinals, but then they have a breath of fresh air, new players coming in. And because of that experience and a little bit of youth, I'm going to say Costa Rica overcome Japan for third spot. Now we have this group up next. We have Belgium, Canada, Morocco, and Croatia. And I think that this is the most interesting group out of all the ones here because it's the most unpredictable. Realistically, all four of these teams have a chance to make it through. You can even make an argument that all four of these teams have a chance to top the group to a certain extent. You look at Belgium, they're the most talented group, or the most talented team in this group, but they've also heavily underperformed at tournaments past. They've always been talked about as a tournament favorite, as, they're going to win the 2018 World Cup, they're going to win Euro 2020, even as go far back as like Euro 2016, and they haven't. And in fact, in each of these cases, even if they've gone far, there's always been a disappointing factor where you feel that this team could have bridged the gap and gone even further. And I think that Belgium has missed their opportunity. The talent is just aging. And of course, you're still going to have guys like Lukaku, De Bruyne, both Hazard brothers, but still, in other areas of the pitch, I think they've declined and their squad isn't as deep. It never really was that deep. They would just have a very strong starting 11. But even now, I think it is it's even less deep. So I don't know. It's hard to say. And then you look at Canada, and it is really hard to get a proper read on this Canadian side, because in CONCACAF, they completely wiped the floor with everyone. They destroyed everyone in CONCACAF. That being said, it's very different to go up against CONCACAF opponents than it is to go on the world stage. The last time Canada made it to the World Cup was, I believe, 1986 or 1982. So none of these guys have ever played at the World Cup before, which can go one of two ways. They could either, feel the pressure, completely flop, or they don't really know what the pressure is, so they just play for fun. Go on to Morocco. Morocco is, at one point I would have argued the best team in Africa. They haven't really lived up to the billing, but who knows? This could be the tournament when they do. They do have a lot of World Cup experience. They were really, really strong at the 2018 World Cup. They were drawn into a tough group with Portugal, Spain, and Iran, and you would feel that if they were in an easier group, they could have made it through to the knockout stage. They have some very talented players, Hakimi, Bono, and Naziri. However, they're missing Ziyech, which, in my opinion, is going to be the tiebreaker there. If they had Ziyech, I think they could have made it to round of 16. And then you have Croatia, and Croatia obviously made it to the final at the 2018 World Cup. They were amazing last time around, but a lot of those guys are either retired, like, Mandzukic, Subasic, Rakitic, or they're just not as good. For example, Vida or Lovren. The only one who's still around playing to the same level is probably Modric, and still, Modric is one of the best players in the world. He can really carry this team far. Look at the Euros, for example. So this one is really hard to predict. And every World Cup, there's always a big team, almost always a big team that flops in the group stage. Look at the last World Cup in 2018. We had Germany just completely run off the rails and get eliminated in group stage. Argentina, even though they made it to the knockout stage, which is a complete train wreck. You go back to 2014, you had England and Italy and Spain all get eliminated in the group stage. 2010, you saw France and Italy go out early. So, I think that Belgium is going to be the one this time around. And I know in 2018, I said that they were going to flop, and then they made it to, they won the bronze medal. But still, I think Belgium is going to slip up here. I'm going to say Croatia topped the group, actually. And I'm going to say Canada finished second. I'm going to say Morocco third and Belgium fourth. Now, if you have watched my videos in the past, I don't particularly like this Belgian team. I promise I'm not being biased here. I think this is going to be a toss-up. It's going to be similar to the group with Portugal, Spain, Morocco, and Iran in 2018, where, I believe Iran finished third, maybe even fourth, because they drew Portugal. Had they had won against Portugal, which they were really close, they would have topped the group. I think that this is a case where, say, every team is drawing each other. It's a bunch of 1-1 or 2-2 draws, something like that. And then a moment of magic pushes one of these teams to the front, like, maybe look back at the Euros when Croatia was going to be eliminated in the group stage, and then Modric had that amazing outside of the boot rocket into the top corner. I think something similar is going to happen here, and which means Croatia go through, Canada as well. Next we have this group: Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, and Cameroon. And this is one where I think Brazil is just very easily the favorite. If it wasn't for Argentina, I would say Brazil are the best team in the world and my favorite for the World Cup. World-class player in almost every position. There's a few weaknesses here and there, but I think if they're playing to their potential, if they're playing to their peak, which they have been at least close to as of late, they could, just absolutely tear up this World Cup. Just look at how many talented players they have. Of course, Neymar, but then you have Richarlison, Rafinha. There's just so many talented players littered throughout the team. You have to put them at first. It's Brazil's Brazil. They always show up for the World Cup. And I think this might be the time where they, this could be the tournament where they finally win it since 2002. Now, I think second is a toss-up. I think it's going to be between Serbia and Switzerland. Switzerland is always an extremely consistent team. They are always You know, they're always going to be there. They were very strong at the Euros. However, I think they've declined since then. Obviously, Shaqiri went to the MLS. A lot of their other players have just gone on in age. And then Serbia, you know, I think I overlooked Serbia. I did the tier list video, and a lot of people who are from Serbia were really angry that I put them in Miracle territory. Now, I do think that people are overrating this Serbian side way too much. But that being said, I did overlook how talented, say, their front line is. You have, Vahalovic, Tadic, Kostic. There are a lot of talented players. So I think that is enough to put them in the second place over Switzerland, sorry. And then, unfortunately, Cameroon finished fourth. But, Cameroon, not a bad team. They were good at the AFCON, but their defense is not very strong. They were able to go far in the AFCON just because of their attacking talent. And I don't think that you can replicate that success in a World Cup without a strong defense behind you. Not to mention, for whatever reason, the president of Cameroon didn't like the coach of the national team. I don't fully know the story. And because of that, the coach got fired. And Cameroon was actually very lucky to get to the World Cup here. I mean, Algeria really got robbed. There was a disallowed goal, which in my opinion should have been allowed. So, that being said, I don't think Cameroon is going into the World Cup in a very, stable situation. And then we have Group H here, which is another very, very interesting group with Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and Korea. I think there was obviously a big gap between Portugal and Uruguay and then the other two teams, Ghana and Korea, but you never know. There could be some type of, crazy upset or something like that. I think Portugal, as I said in my last video, has one of the most talented squads in the world. They have a World Cup winning squad, but they also have Fernando Santos. And as good as a manager as he was in 2016 to win Portugal the Euros, which was a beautiful and wonderful achievement, Portugal will always be eternally grateful to him for that. The team has moved beyond him, has moved past him. His style just does not work. That pragmatic, defensive style just does not work with a team that is littered with attacking superstars. And because of that, I don't think that they are going to get very far in this World Cup. I think they'll make it out of the group. Some people I've heard say that they're going to go on to group stage. I don't think it's a crisis mode like that, but I don't think that they're going to win the World Cup. Unfortunately, I don't think we will see the Argentina versus Portugal final that we are all hoping for. I think Uruguay are going to top this group. I think Uruguay are secretly one of the best teams in this tournament. They are super, super well-rounded. They play some beautiful football. Up top, you got, Suarez and Cavani, as always, full of World Cup experience. Darwin Núñez, who is an emerging star, is very strong as well. But then you look into the midfield, and you have De Arrascaeta from Flamengo, very, very good player. Valverde from Real Madrid, who is one of the best midfielders in the world as well. And then, Bentancur, Torreira. It's a very strong team. Now, ironically, the weakness might be center back because Diego Godin is getting on in age, which is ironic because, Uruguay almost always, the spine throughout the team was the strongest part, the defense, the strikers, goalkeepers. But, this time, it's a little flip-flop there. But still, I think Uruguay are very good. I don't think that they're going to win the World Cup. But still, I think they can go very, very far. And I'm going to say Portugal finished second in this group because just too much talent. Like, even if the team overall doesn't play well, you got to expect Ronaldo to be up there dragging this team up from nothing, similar to what he did in 2018. And in between Korea and Ghana, this one is kind of tough. Now, if you were to have asked me this question, say 4 months ago when they did the World Cup draw, I would have said, okay, easily Korea over Ghana. But Ghana, they kind of went out and then acted like a club and started signing players. They got a bunch of guys who are of Ghanaian descent and got them to switch their nationality. Inaki Williams, for example, I think that's the most, the most prestigious of them all. That being said, I don't think it will be enough to see them qualify for the knockout stage, but still, they could really cause some trouble here. And then Korea, Son Heung-min, one of the best players in the world. I don't think that the supporting cast around Son Heung-min is strong enough, though. So I'm going to say Ghana third, and then South Korea fourth. So overall, we have the group stage here all squared away. We have Senegal, Qatar, USA, England, Argentina, Mexico, Denmark, France, Uruguay, Portugal, Brazil, Serbia, Croatia, Canada, and Spain and Germany, all going through to the round of 16. So now let's look ahead to the round of 16 and see what matchups we have. So starting off, we have Senegal versus USA. Now, I think that this is actually not a bad draw. Like, if this happens in real life, this isn't the worst draw in the world. You know, I think that the USA does have the ability to eliminate Senegal. Now, it's going to be very tough. Like I said before, Senegal is a very well-rounded, very strongly constructed team, and the USA can be very inconsistent, and oftentimes we play best against teams that like to control the match, and then we can hit them on the counter. Senegal is the team that, you know, sometimes they control the match, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they try to control the match and it doesn't really work out. So, you know, it's kind of, you know, up in the air. I think that Senegal overall is obviously a better team, but, you know, in the World Cup, I'm going to go with the US. Call me biased. I'm going to say USA eliminates Senegal, maybe on penalties or something like that. Then we have Argentina versus France, a rematch of the 2018 round of 16 matchup that ended up being like 4-3 to France. It was a very, very exciting game. Di Maria scored a beautiful goal. Pavard scored the goal of the tournament in that game. Mbappe had a wonderful game. But I think Argentina is going to get revenge on France this time around. Like I said, I don't think France are going to get eliminated in the group stage, but I think they will have a disappointing World Cup. I think Argentina is going to have a statement win right here and eliminate France. Then we have England versus Qatar. And I think as strong as Qatar might be because of the host advantage, that can only carry you so far, and I think the end of the road for Qatar's national team ends here at the hands of England. England are just far too strong to eliminate Qatar. Now it's probably going to be a very boring and dull game, but England will do just enough to overcome the host nation. Then we have Denmark versus Mexico, and I'm going to already choose Denmark. I think the round of 16 curse that has befallen Mexico, El Quinto Partido, I think is going to continue on. Even if it wasn't for the curse, Denmark is just far better than Mexico. In the past, Mexico has gone up against an opponent in the round 16 and then, you know, played well, but, you know, just they were missing that cutting edge or something like that and they got eliminated. I mean, you know, they weren't bad against Brazil in 2018. They outplayed Netherlands in 2014. And then they weren't bad against Argentina in 2010. This time around, though, I think Denmark is probably just going to run riot over Mexico. It's going to be a kind of embarrassing result there, unfortunately. And then Denmark marches on. Then we have Spain versus Canada, and as strong as Canada can be as an unexpected opponent, I think Spain is just, is too much for them to overcome. I think Spain are going to, see this game out pretty comfortably. And then we have Brazil versus Portugal, which should be a super interesting game. You have, the two Portuguese-speaking countries going up against each other, or two of the Portuguese-speaking countries going up against each other. And I think Brazil is just going to be, too strong for Portugal. I mean, who knows? I mean, with Ronaldo in the team, you never know what's going to happen. I think this should be an exciting game with lots of goals, obviously if it does occur in real life. But I'm going to say Brazil go through. Then we have Croatia versus Germany. And I'm going to side with Germany on this one. I think Germany are just, too strong of a team. They have a deep squad for the most part. Actually some unknown players. It's not the most well-known German squad, but still is very talented. They do, play well together. And then Croatia, the fatigue that they're going to have to expend to get to this point, considering how old their squad is just going to fall through. And I think Germany are going to overcome them here. Then we have Uruguay versus Serbia. And I think Serbia is going to get eliminated by Uruguay. Like I said before, I think this Uruguay team is very strong. I think they're a team that a lot of people are sleeping on. And I think this is going to be a statement win, and they're going to march on to the quarterfinals. So looking ahead to the quarterfinals, we have some crazy matchups here. Off the start, we have USA versus Argentina. And I think it's very obvious that Argentina are going through. I think it'll be, not a contest. I don't think the U.S. has any chance to overcome Argentina here, but, for the U.S. to go out at the quarterfinals to Argentina, perfectly okay with that. I think there's a possibility that we don't even make it out of the group. So for us to get all the way to the quarterfinals, if this happens in real life, I am totally okay with that. Next, we have Spain versus Brazil. This should be a matchup with a lot of goals. I think overall, Brazil are just a better team. They have, less flaws than Spain. Spain have, like I said before, goalkeeper, center back pairing, striker. Brazil doesn't have those issues. The only issue that you can argue that they have is fullbacks, which is not as crucial than those three that Spain have. So I'm going to lean towards Brazil. And we have England versus Denmark in a rematch of the semifinals of Euro 2020, where England did just enough to come out on top, a little controversially as well. And I think this will be a rematch, or repeat of that. I think England will go through. Maybe a little controversial. I don't think England is going to completely blow out Denmark. But I think overall they're just going to be the better team, and the momentum is going to be behind them. And then we have Germany versus Uruguay. Now, I know those of you watching this are probably going to be like, okay, this is pretty straightforward. Germany to the semifinals, but I am going to lean for Uruguay. I think Uruguay have it in them to be the surprise team of the tournament. There's always a surprise team that kind of sneaks their way into the tournament, into the latter stages of the tournament, and I think Uruguay is going to be the one this time around, which it isn't a total surprise because, Uruguay has won 2 World Cups before. They consistently have some of the best players in the world. But still, everyone sleeps on them. No one's really expecting much of them. I think that this year, they could be a seriously dangerous team. And Germany, on the other hand, like I said, they're a team for the future. There's a lot of youth guys in there that don't have a whole lot of experience, and I think it is a little too early for Hansi Flick's style to be fully integrated into the team. So overall, I think they're a good team, but they're going to slip up here against Uruguay, obviously, if this match actually occurs in real life. Then we have the semifinals. We have Argentina versus Brazil, England versus Uruguay, and this should be a wonderful semifinals if this actually happens. Here we have Argentina versus Brazil, arguably the biggest international rivalry in all of soccer. This this game boils over. It's always super violent, super passionate. We've seen this before at numerous World Cups. We just saw it in the Copa America final, and in that final, Argentina came out on top over Brazil, and it was a very, very close game. For most of the game, I would say Argentina did not control the game. I thought Brazil had majority of the chances, and they just didn't finish on the night, and Argentina were more consistent where it counted. But I think Argentina are better now than they were in the Copa America final, and that being said, so is Brazil. But I think Argentina just have it in them to overcome Brazil again, and I think that individual magic will probably decide this. And look no further than Lionel Messi. I think Messi had a absolutely wonderful Copa America. He was so motivated to finally win an international trophy, and I think it's going to be the same here. He's going to be so motivated to win the World Cup. So I'm going to say Argentina overcome Brazil. And then we have England versus Uruguay. And I'm tempted to say Uruguay get to the final, but I think that this is too far for Uruguay. I think England, like I said, the momentum's in their favor. They don't concede a lot of goals, even if they don't play the most beautiful football, even if they're boring, even if everyone hates them, including me. I think they're going to make it to the final. Now, there isn't an option here for the third place match. It'll be Brazil versus Uruguay, according to my bracket. Again, another international rivalry that has a lot of history behind it. I would lean for Brazil in that, so I would say Brazil takes bronze. Now we have the final here, and this should be a super interesting game. I am going to lean for Argentina. I think Messi is just, he's going to motivate his team. He is going to make up for his failure in the 2014 final. It wasn't completely his fault, obviously, Higuain and Palacio, but still, Messi missed a one-on-one there. I think he's going to make up for that. I think he's going to have a wonderful game, even if he doesn't score. I think he's going to push his team to victory, and Argentina overall, I think, are just a better team than England. Of course, it's going to be super close. But this is my winner for 2022. My early prediction for a winner. We have Argentina coming out on top, overcoming England. And it seems like most people agreed with me, or at least Argentina is the most popular choice here. You know, pretty close between them and Brazil, which I think is fair. I think these three teams are the best teams in the world right now. So yeah, let me know who you think is going to win the World Cup. Feel free to take this bracket itself. All you got to do is just search up 22 World Cup Simulator. It's on Telegraph online. Let me know what you think. Do you think that Argentina is going to win? Do you think that England is going to win, or Brazil, or Spain, or Germany? Do you think I'm overrating some teams like Uruguay or the US? Do you think I'm underrating some teams like Serbia, for example? A lot of you were a little angry with my opinions on Serbia in the last video. Or, you know, Netherlands, for example. I had them going down the group stage. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But anyway, guys, my name is Brandon. This has been the Football Bloc. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with a friend. And I hope you guys have a nice rest of your night.